So I'm sure that you have there's some controversial names on this list. So I want to start with Big Ben. I put Big Ben in the first tier. Quarterbacks that can win a Super Bowl no matter what you put around them. That was probably my hardest decision I had to make. And normally, I would say because I had to even think about it, it's a second tier quarterback. But then I thought about this. For example, when you buy a camera. When I buy a camera, I do a lot of thinking. If I don't know immediately, I'm not going to buy it. If I'm not certain, I'm not going to buy it. And because I wasn't certain, I almost hesitated putting Ben Roethlisberger in the top tier of quarterbacks. So I need to slow down. I was speeding up for that bit. I need to slow down a little bit. This was, again, a hard decision, but we cannot punish Ben Roethlisberger for playing with good players around him. You got to remember the stars that Ben Roethlisberger plays with are incredibly erratic. They're weird. They're insane. They don't keep up. They're not consistent. So the Steelers teammates that Ben Roethlisberger has elevate and lower to the competition. Whatever the competition brings, they kind of play at the same level. Because of this crazy erraticness, I think Ben Roethlisberger is kind of overlooked. He's incredible. He's phenomenal. He's won 2 Super Bowls. And no matter what the team does around him, he shows up to play and does his job and still wins you games. Look at the Bengals win on Monday night a little while ago. Look at the Ravens game. The Ravens, he beat the Ravens by 1 point, and he just did everything. He threw for over 500 yards. And no matter what his team around him does, Ben Roethlisberger shows up to play, does his job, and can win you a Super Bowl. The next name that's really controversial is Russell Wilson. I'm not apologizing for this at all. I've gotten a ton of hate on the internet because I said that Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I know that's controversial, but it really shouldn't be. For some reason, we struggle to embrace Russell Wilson. I'm not talking about the past. I'm not talking about a couple years ago when Russell Wilson went to the Super Bowl. I'm talking about right this very moment. Russell Wilson is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. Russell Wilson has 32 of the Seahawks' 33 offensive touchdowns this year. The reason why the Seahawks are in the playoff picture is because of Russell Wilson. That's it. Without Russell Wilson, the Seahawks are atrocious. They're awful. Russell Wilson has elevated the Seahawks and can win them a Super Bowl seemingly by himself. Russell Wilson is almost a one-man show. I put Drew Brees in the second tier of quarterbacks, which may surprise you. Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. I loved his book. It was great. But Drew Brees has a good roster this year. That is why the Saints are atop their division and going to make the playoffs. Where's Drew Brees a couple of years ago? Because between the Super Bowl, the last time he went to a Super Bowl and this year, where was Drew Brees? We saw nothing. The guy struggled. I didn't think he missed the playoffs one year. He's really not been as great. That's because Drew Brees needs good players around him to win a Super Bowl. This year, he has a great defense, good running backs. The Saints may win the Super Bowl, but that is because they have great players. Drew Brees needs good players around him and needs help to win a Super Bowl. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with needing to work with good people. In fact, if I had to choose, I would hire people that are far more talented than me because I'm aware there's no shame in saying I need good people around me to be successful. Because having good people around you makes your life so much easier. I've worked with bad people. That's not fun. That sucks. You don't want to do that. Now, Blake Bortles was the guy I put in the second tier. Are you telling me you think Blake Bortles can't win a Super Bowl? No matter what you put around Blake Bortles, with a good enough defense, a good enough running back, and good enough receivers, Blake Bortles can win you a Super Bowl. They might do it this year. I don't think so, but man, the Jaguars' defense is absolutely incredible. So Blake Bortles, therefore, is a tier 2 quarterback. He could win you a Super Bowl with good enough people around him. And listen to these stats. Blake Bortles has 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 2,821 yards, which is incredibly comparable to Matt Ryan and Derek Carr. And he has a 60.2% completion percentage. You have to be better than 60% to be a great quarterback, in my opinion. Blake Bortles does. So Blake Bortles has gotten better and significantly improved. Blake Bortles could win a Super Bowl if you needed him to. I left Jameis Winston off. Jameis Winston, I think he may be a bust. I'm really worried about Jameis Winston. He's got off-the-field issues. He's got on-the-field issues. Jameis Winston is an absolute mess. I would not want Jameis Winston to be the quarterback for my franchise, and I don't know that he can consistently win you games in the NFL. I would take Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston, which is an absolute travesty. If I'm saying I would rather have Andy Dalton than you, oh, that's ugly and that's scary. I don't like that. The last quarterback I want to talk about was Alex Smith. I said Alex Smith is a third-tier quarterback, that Alex Smith cannot win you a Super Bowl. That hurt my soul to say. I love Alex Smith. He seems like a great guy. I've watched interview after interview after interview. Look up Graham Bensinger, Alex Smith. It's a great video. He's a great, great guy. But the guy has not delivered this season. The Chiefs have the best roster in the NFL. If Russell Wilson played on the Chiefs would be unbelievable. The Chiefs would be breaking every single record in the world. The fact that Alex Smith may not even make the playoffs with the Kansas City Chiefs tells me he's a third-tier quarterback. The guy can win you some games. He cannot win you a Super Bowl. I'm done. I'm sold on Alex Smith. I gave up on him. I did not include Jimmy Garoppolo on this list. Jimmy Garoppolo is, of course, he's at least a third-tier quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo can win you games in the NFL. But I don't know which tier he falls into. I felt like I didn't have enough information, so I left him off the list.